Okay, so how does a e-cigarette or a personal vaporizer actually work? What's behind it? And I think for a lot of people, you know, they see them being used, they think it is kind of smoke in some sort of a way, but in fact it's not. It's just pure vapor, and that's why the whole thing is called vaping, because it's to do with vapor. So how does this vaping or vapor actually happen? Well, it's very simple, and you know, I'll show you a sort of a range of different types of personal vaporizers as we go through the video. But the one thing is fundamental to all of them. Essentially how the vapor is produced is exactly the same. The only difference as you go through the different machines is that in some cases they just look fancier, in other cases they have a more complicated way of actually delivering the vapor through to your mouth. They have a different way of containing the vapor as it's actually, and channeling the vapor as it's actually produced. So there's lots of enhancements that can be made to this fundamental, you know, central thing, which is how vapor is produced in each case. But as I said, in every case, it's exactly the same. It just might look a bit different. So I'll just give you a couple of simple examples. Essentially what you have with, when you're vaping, is that there is a wick, and there's a typical sort of wick there. This one is made from silica, and here's one that this is just a coil that I was starting to make earlier on. So if you can see here, there's a wick, and you can see around the wick there's a wire, okay? And basically what happens is that this wick will become wet from the e-liquid, which we'll talk about in a minute, and then what will happen is a battery will essentially be attached to these here. This will heat up, and the liquid which is in the wick underneath these coils of wire will then vaporize. That's it. It's really, really simple. So if I was to, and let me see if I can find something, I'll just show you another example. Okay, this is a handmade one which is going into a bigger sort of a device, but this one here comes off a more standard sort of a device. But if you look, banging the camera there, if you look very closely in there, you can see that this has actually got two wicks, so crossing over on different levels, and in each case you can probably see the wires going around the wicks. So again, what will happen with that is that when you actually heat it up by using a battery, and let's see if we can actually see this, you should actually see these glowing. So let's see if we can see this. Now, I'm not sure whether you can see that. Let's see if we can turn up the volume on this thing a little bit, so get them glowing a little bit hotter. There, you can see that there. So basically what would happen is that if that has actually got liquid on it, that is going to produce vapor. So what I'll do is I'll just put a little drop of liquid on top of that, and then do the same thing, and then you can see what happens. So I've just put a little bit of drop of liquid on the top of that, again as you saw it before, and now see what happens. You can see the vapor coming off the top of it. So that's it. And no matter what machine you're using, so from something like maybe this here, which would be a fairly low cost starter type of a unit, which is excellent, up to something like this, which is a more high-end thing, and this has got a big tank in it here, but at the bottom it's got essentially exactly the same thing as that. It's got a wick and it's got a coil going around it. There's another example there. And so the only difference between these is, well, the cost for a start, because you know, you can start going into the stratosphere in terms of costs. But they all are the same. They're all powered by a battery. In the first case there, it was powered by one of these batteries that are relatively inexpensive, and as long as you buy the legitimate ones, they are extremely good. Something like this is also powered by a battery, but the battery that it's being powered by is one of these. And then in terms of these, there's a whole range of different sizes that you get, but there's basically 3 different sizes, which are these 3 here. And I'm not going to go into battery sizes, and I'm not going to go into voltages and everything like that, because frankly at this stage, you know, you don't need to know, because it's only if you start getting into the high-end stuff and you need to start really understanding how things work. But at its most basic level, and frankly with any of the machines that are around nowadays, many of them have electronics in them to regulate what's happening within the battery. You know, all you need to do is just charge it up and then make sure that you have liquid in it, and it'll work. So to wrap that little bit up, basically every e-cigarette or PV or whatever you want to call it that's out there has got something like that in it. So it's got a wicking material. It could be silica like this. It could be stainless steel mesh. It could be stainless steel rope. It could be cotton. It could be hemp. It could be lots of things. The fundamental thing is that it's a wick. And always around that wicking material will be a wire. And that wire is the thing that heats up by drawing its power from the battery to turn the liquid that's underneath the wire, held within the wick, into vapor. And that is the vapor that you actually inhale.